Welcome back to the Centered in the City podcast. I'm your host, Wade Brill, and I am so glad you are here for today's solo episode. Today on the pod, we're talking about how to mindfully manage our relationship to technology. We've talked about this before on the podcast, but I think it's always really helpful to gut check with yourself and have a refresher, especially right now in a moment of high intensity. There's a lot going on locally in our own lives, globally. And the way most of us get our information is through our cell phones or through our technology and checking in. How are we in relationship with our technology, and what can we do to be a little bit more intentional with our relationship to technology so that it's supporting our mental health and our well-being. You will leave today's episode not only with more awareness about your current relationship status with technology, I'll also be sharing some what I call mindful moments, these pauses that you can bring into your day to check in with yourself, to then act with more intention, act with more alignment with how you want to be showing up. So let's settle in and let's get centered. Before we get into today's solo episode, I want to celebrate with you all that my upcoming book, 100 Mindful Moments to Balance and Energize, is coming out very soon. So stay in the know by signing up for the link in the show notes. As well as I welcome you to join a free monthly gathering I'm hosting. It's called the Mindful Moment Meetup. And this is an opportunity to come together as a community for a pause, for a mindful moment to care and tend to ourselves. And in that session, I'll be sharing with you a mindful moment from my book. We'll do some interactive exercises, some introspection, and you'll leave feeling more awake, more energized, and more aware to bring that intentionality into your life and how you care for yourself. And we know that caring for yourself is so essential for us having capacity to live and navigate these modern day lives. The next one is on April 29th at 12 p.m. Pacific time, so sign up in the show notes below. Look forward to seeing you there. So in this moment, I welcome you to check in and notice, what is your relationship to your phone specifically like these days? Maybe even your computer. Are you in love? Is it complicated? Is there mutual respect? Are you not talking to one another? Happily married? Whatever verbiage you want to use, I welcome you to describe it. I would label my relationship with technology as a buddy with benefits. Now, I say this because I don't love being on my phone. I don't love being at my computer, even though I love writing, and I love writing in my journal, but I also write a lot on my computer and on my Substack. Especially while I'm traveling, it feels like my phone is a buddy with benefits. Like, I kind of need my phone for Google Maps and navigating. And so there's like a very functional use. I also am pretty cheap. What I mean by that is I don't love to spend a lot of money buying eSIM credits. So my data usage when I am out and about is very limited. So when I am not in Wi-Fi, I am hardly using my phone. And what this means is when I am in Wi-Fi, it feels like this dopamine sugar rush, like this buddy I want to get a lot of, dopamine from. And I will then end up spending more time, I feel like, on my phone because I'm catching up for the moments when, I'm waiting for public transportation, or I'm waiting in line at the grocery store and I'm not checking my phone like I would maybe do when I'm back in the States. So it's been very interesting to observe my relationship with technology while I've been traveling and living abroad. I love it in certain ways because when I am, commuting by foot, I'll maybe have a podcast pre-downloaded, but I can't just whip out my phone and call somebody. I can't just whip out my phone and look something up. I have to be really intentional with my usage. However, what I've also noticed because of the time difference, when I'm heading to bed and trying to wind down, it's when most of my community on the East Coast and Pacific are gearing up for their day. So there's more kind of chitter chatter, whether it's social media channels or text messages or WhatsApp, that I am checking in on. And I then notice, wow, as I'm trying to wind down, I'm actually gearing up. So for you, I welcome you to pause and notice, what is your relationship with your technology like? When are you using it? When are you choosing to use it? When do you notice it's autopilot? How does it feel while you're using it? The other day when I was working from home, I noticed I was on my computer trying to get some deeper work done, and I just kept grabbing my phone to check social media and distract myself. And it was so draining to my energy. I noticed that. I paused and started to feel the pattern and started to feel, okay, this doesn't feel very good. And at that awareness moment is then a choice point. It's a choice point to choose differently. And so I said to myself, okay, Wade, do you want to keep going down this game? And when you're continuing to feed a cycle, it gets bigger, right? Those neural pathways in our brain get a little deeper. And so being intentional, pausing to say, do I want to keep going down this road? Is a question I try to lovingly ask myself a lot when I notice I'm in autopilot or doing some habits that are actually not nourishing me. Because there's a lot of moments in life that we can feel powerless. But we have to remember we always have the choice. And so we can take a moment to recenter ourselves back into our power and start to choose differently. And do we act with perfection? No, that's not the game point. But if we can switch our attention and connect back to our intention of how we want to be navigating whatever the moment is, whether it's with our technology, whether it's with mindful eating, whether it's with our language and a communication dynamic, we can come back to ourselves. So I said, okay, Wade, nope, I don't want to do this. This is not helpful. And this is not a pattern I want to be feeding. And so I took my phone. I said, okay, timer set 30 minutes. And I threw my phone far away from me. And putting that timer on not only gives my mind permission to focus, but it also gives my mind that reward feeling afterwards, right? Like, okay, I can stay focused for this chunk of time. I don't need to be checking my phone. And then I can check my phone if I would like to in 30 minutes. And maybe I won't even want to in 30 minutes. So creating these little time blocks for ourselves is very helpful in not only practicing staying focused, but also setting some boundaries for ourselves. Another habit that I started to notice happen, and again, checking in with myself. So I'm part of a bunch of WhatsApp groups that are very active. And these are WhatsApp groups I've joined being international. And so I'm curious to stay engaged. I haven't silenced them because I want to know what's going on. And so I've noticed that because there's like a new notification, sometimes like every few minutes, that I started to check my phone more and more. And I was like, oh God, this is not good for anybody. And again, noticing that. So I then set a boundary and said, okay, Wade, you can check this WhatsApp group once, maybe twice a day. So once in the middle of the day or once at the end of the day if you'd like. And for the majority of the day, I have my phone on Do Not Disturb, which I will say sometimes I do miss texts or calls come in. But for the most part, it's actually really helpful because then when I engage my phone, I can then look and say, oh, I missed this call. Let me call this person back at a time that works for me. So again, I welcome you to pause and check in. Are there certain apps on your phones or certain behaviors that you notice you're in a cycle with that is not helpful or healthy? Maybe it's social media scrolling and you notice you're spending like over an hour a day searching social media. And I'm really curious if you feel like, not judging yourself, but if you check in and you feel like that's enough time and that feels okay to you, cool. But if you're noticing you're spending a lot of time and it feels like too much time, time that you would rather have back to take a walk, call a friend, listen to an audiobook, paint with some watercolors, bake something, like whatever it might be, you might realize that, hey, this energy that I'm giving out could better be spent nourishing my life in other ways. And if that's the case, great, that's information. You don't have to shame yourself. You don't have to guilt yourself. You don't have to beat yourself up. But you do now have responsibility because you have awareness. And so that responsibility is here to teach you to do something different. And so really ask yourself, what actions can I take that are in alignment with my values? What's actually going to serve me best? So what are some creative ways that you can set boundaries with your technology to support your relationship? One of the boundaries I have with technology right now that is really helpful, it's a mindful moment. It's from my new upcoming book, 100 Mindful Moments to Balance and Energize. And one of the mindful moments I offer, which is this mindset tip to practice, is to pause before I peak. And what I mean by that is that when I hear a notification go off, to not react to it right away, to not grab my phone and have to look at it. Or if I don't even have it on a vibration or a sound and I just see, the light shift or that notification come up, to not grab my phone or even to resist looking at it. Having this pause before I peak is very centering because it allows me to come back into myself and recognize I don't have to be at the reactive whim of all the noise, the pings and dings of life. If I can train my mind and my attention, my nervous system to be in that pause and then intentionally choose when I'm wanting to, when I'm ready to, it's really helpful because it keeps me in my body instead of this knee-jerk reaction of like people pleasing or responding right away or this feeling of urgency that is so prevalent in our culture. Maybe a boundary you want to set is, a phone doesn't travel with you into the bathroom. I know a lot of people, and even I've seen some like research around this, that you shouldn't have your phone with you while you're in the bathroom because it distracts you from doing what you need to do and being focused. And that then has an impact on your body, which I can totally get. So maybe a boundary is to not bring your phone into the bathroom, to allow yourself to fully be in the bathroom doing whatever you're doing, whether that's number 2, number 1, whether it's brushing your teeth, whether that's taking a bath. I know sometimes my guilty pleasure is bringing my phone into a bath and like scrolling through real estate or doing Duolingo or kind of using some creative time. And that's okay sometimes. Like, again, I don't want to shame us or make us feel guilty for what we're doing. But I also notice I don't want that to be a habit. Like, I also just want to be able to go into my bath and have that be a tech-free space sometimes. Another boundary I have with technology that I've been, doing pretty well with. There's definitely been some days where I slip up and go through the cycle. And again, gain that awareness and then reconnect and recorrect myself. I really try to create before I consume. I talked about this like over a year ago, and it is such a helpful mindset to hold that when I turn off my alarm on my phone, which I really try not to even use for an alarm, but obviously traveling, my phone is my alarm. When I turn it off, I try not to touch it. I keep it wherever it was, or I, throw it onto the couch and don't look at it and come back to myself so that I can create before I consume. Whether creating in that moment is a meditation, doing some writing, journaling, maybe it's even just making myself breakfast, being with my own body, my own hands, my own heart, my own mind first is so important. A boundary that my husband has with technology and our relationship, it's a really funny one, but for him, he doesn't enjoy it when couples are on technology at the same time. Or maybe it's not even couples, maybe it's a group of people or two people are hanging out or whatever. And I totally understand. And sometimes it's really frustrating on my end, but I also try to respect his boundary here. And so whenever he pulls out his phone to look something up or, respond to an email, and then I'm like, okay, well, you're looking at your phone, so I'm going to pull up my phone. And then he, was like, oh, great, now I have to put my phone away. And it's a really funny boundary to me that he has, but it's also kind of true. It's like, okay, if we're a world, a society, like sometimes I'm on the bus, I'm on the tram, and I see everybody around me just zoned out into their phone or have earpods in. And I get it, like that's the world we live in. But to be in an environment where that's all that I'm surrounded by is really disconnecting and discombobulating. Other boundaries that you can set with technology, and I haven't done this myself, but I know people that have, you can change the color of your phone to grayscale. And so that makes your phone less appealing, less like candy to the mind. Maybe this is something you want to have set up on your phone all day, all the time. Maybe this is a setting you want to set for the evening time if you notice that's where you typically get caught in your apps or caught in the doom scrolling. Other people I know have set boundaries of using different apps that help, minimize the time they can be on certain apps. That's never been something that I've enjoyed or wanted to have personally. But if you notice that would really support you, even if you can snooze it to just be that helpful nudge, go for it. Another boundary that you can set with your phone, specifically when it comes to technology, is minimizing the amount of apps you download. I don't think we need all of the apps that we have on our phone. I know I probably use like 3, maybe 4 on a daily basis. So be intentional about what apps you have. And if you have less apps on your screens, then you're probably less tempted to futz around with them. I also know some people who organize their apps in specific ways or change the organization of their apps in specific ways so that it's not as autopilot. Your finger doesn't know where the Instagram app is going to be. It's hidden. And so if it takes longer to search for it, it cuts down on their craving, on their hunt for it, and therefore helps reduce that kind of autopilot knee-jerk reaction of oh, I'm bored, I'm just going to open up Instagram. Now, with all of these boundaries that you can set are great, but we really also need to go to the deeper root of the behavior. And a lot of the times our behaviors are because there's a deep need that wants to get filled. And so that behavior is a way that we're trying to get that need filled, whether it's skillful or not. We're in the pattern of it. As you bring some mindful awareness to your relationship with technology right now, and you start to notice, where is it not serving me? Where am I getting caught up? Where does it not feel good? Where do I want to be adjusting? I really welcome you to then notice, what's the need that I have? What's the need that I have in those moments? So for me, at the end of the day, I might notice I spend more time scrolling because specifically right now, I am trying to catch up with people who are in a different time zone. And so for me, it's the evening. For them, it's the beginning of their day. And so when there's more activity, I'm more hungry to be on my phone. And so that need that's there is connection. I'm looking for connection. I'm getting really honest with myself of, is my need for connection being met? And maybe it's being met on the very surface level, like it's scratching that itch, but it's actually not getting deep into the root of it. And so sometimes in those moments where I'm needing connection, and it might not be possible to call somebody or to spend time with somebody in a meaningful way, I have to ask myself, okay, how can I meet my own need to the best of my ability? Sometimes that's just like a hand on my heart and saying like, oh, sweetheart, you really want connection right now. I see that. And just taking a moment to maybe think about the people in my life that I love, that I care about, feeling the community that's there for me, feeling words of affirmation I've maybe heard recently, giving myself words of affirmation, taking a moment to just feel what love and connection feels like in my body. And I know you might be thinking like, Wade, okay, that sounds lovely, but how like realistic is it for me to pause and do that? And I'll throw the question back at you, like how badly do you want to support yourself? How badly do you want to meet your own needs? How badly do you want to care and tend to your own heart and mind and being? Because we live in a world where everything we want, we can order and have delivered to us in an hour. And because of that system thinking that like we can get what we want from the outside world on demand to give to us, we are then searching our environment constantly to think, okay, the outside world is here to serve us. But we forget that we, inside of our own bodies, heart and mind, get to serve ourselves too. And that's not selfish, that's not self-indulgent, but it's actually really smart because we're filling ourselves up intentionally before we go to the outside world to fill us. And again, this doesn't mean we can meet even ourselves all of our needs. We as social beings need each other. This is very essential. We need each other, and yet we also need ourselves. And there's so many times when we can self-abandon. And I think a lot of times that happens with our relationship with technology. We self-abandoned our own thoughts by using AI to create something. We self-abandon our own energy because we think doom scrolling is going to feel good or nurture something, but actually it leaves us feeling more empty. We self-abandon our need for sleep or rest because we're staying up later, hooked on these devices, or letting our minds get so revved up. So bringing awareness to the needs that are happening below our behaviors. I mean, this is like big shit. This is, if we can keep being aware of this, we can bring a lot more intentionality into our actions. I just want to say this is hard work. This is work I'm constantly practicing of noticing what is my need here. What is my need here? It is not an easy given. And especially if we grew up in a world where we were told we didn't have needs, or to have needs was selfish, or nobody helped give you language to your needs. Learning how to build all of that is its own journey. So to bring us full circle here, I really welcome you to take this moment as you're listening to this episode on a walk, cooking in the kitchen, wherever you are, and think about your relationship to technology. What's that relationship like? Where is it serving you? Where is it not? Where do you want to adjust? And how can you set some creative boundaries for yourself? And then get really clear on what's the need underneath these moments of interaction with technology. And how can I serve myself in getting that need in a different way? This is a huge part of us staying centered in our cities, staying centered in our lives, is reminding ourselves that we have the ability to choose, right? We have the ability to get off of autopilot and choose and not be a victim to technology, but instead take charge of our relationship to technology. I would love to hear how this episode is landing for you, what's coming alive. Share with me some of the boundaries you're setting. Share with me some of the insights you're gaining around your relationships with technology, your needs underneath those relationships, underneath those behaviors. And please share this episode with somebody in your life that you know could use a little check-in around their relationship to technology and how can they make that more intentional. Thanks for always as being here and allowing me to be in your ears, your heart, and your mind. It is such a gift. And until next time, stay centered.